Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well, and welcome back to the Future Food Tech monthly webinar series. I'm Oliver Katz, the conference producer, and I'll just wait a couple of moments to make sure that everyone is loaded in. Great. So earlier this week, I shared a couple of shocking statistics from the WHO through our email newsletter. So since 1975, worldwide obesity has nearly tripled. And the majority of the world's population live in countries now where obesity kills more than being underweight does. So there's no doubt that obesity is a massive problem, but also from microbiome health to mental wellness to resilience against illnesses such as COVID-19, nutrition plays a key role in not only preventing health problems, but also allowing people to reach their full potential. And spurred on by the recent crisis, the human nutrition market is estimated to be worth over 450 billion in the next 5 years. So we have an abundance of food, but is it the right food? And what key scientific discoveries and new innovations are delivering more tailored solutions in this space? What needs to be done to reach those most in need and prompt them to switch to more nutritious whole food diets? This is such an important topic, and today I'm really delighted to bring together 3 nutritional and health leaders from Kellogg's, ADM, and Wholesome Wave to share their insights into these areas and detail how they're using their time and resources to really help change the tide. So you all probably know by now the drill, but for our new audience members, it will follow our typical webinar schedule. So where we have a presentation from each of our speakers, followed by 2 or 3 live questions posed to each of them from you, the audience. So please post your questions in the Ask a Question section located at the bottom right of your screen. Already lots have been posted, so thank you for that. You can also upvote these questions. So the more upvoted the question, the more likely it will be asked to our speakers. We also have a couple of polls going, getting your take on wellness trends through to barriers of healthy eating, asking, why can't you put down that chocolate bar? So please also use those polls. And then after the presentations and direct questions, there'll be a short group discussion where Michelle will lead. And this will also incorporate some live questions until we wrap up on the hour. So please also feel free to use the comments section to encourage productive conversations or just give some good old-fashioned support to the speakers. Finally, if you do experience any technical issues, please comment in the chat and one of our Rethink team will be able to assist you with that. So without further ado, I would love to welcome up our first speaker, Diane Heyman. She is the VP of Global Innovation R&D at the Kellogg Company. So her experience spans across new product innovation, core product restage, and extensive work with open innovation partnerships. She has a passion for new product creation processes, collaborating with external partners on technologies that improve foods, and loves to know what motivates their consumers and customers across the globe. Welcome, Diane. Over to you.
Thanks, Oliver. Hopefully everyone can hear me. And give me a second while I share my screen. Okay. All right, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the folks on the webinar. I'm really pleased to have the opportunity on behalf of the Global Innovation team and the Kellogg Company to talk to you about plant-based eating and its role in not only the health of our gut microbiome, but our overall health and well-being. We've come a long way in our understanding of nutrition and well-being, and it's been a bit of a progression and at times an evolution, right, of our understanding, our concept, anywhere from our learning of micronutrients like vitamins and minerals, the role of vitamin C and scurvy, and minerals in health and disease states, moving to an understanding of macronutrients, the understanding of caloric value of things like carbohydrates and fats and proteins, all the way to the groundbreaking and really seminal work of Dr. Jeffrey Gordon, who helped us not only to understand that the gut microbiome is comprised of tens of trillions of microbes, but also the role that the diversity in the gut of those microbes and its link to our overall health and well-being. So the gut microbiome is the future of nutrition, and as we continue to unwrap its understanding, we'll find new pathways to health. The beauty and the challenge and the opportunity is that, like our fingerprints, all of us have a gut microbiome that is unique and diverse. We're still learning about how the microbiome affects our body in health and disease. There's mounting scientific evidence to suggest our gut microbiome can influence our mood, our energy level, support for our immune system, sleep quality, metabolism, and so much more. We know that it changes within our life cycles, within our life stages, and it responds to everyday factors like our diet, the medications we're taking, the kind of stress we're under every day, and including the kind of environments that we live in. What we eat and drink has an impact on the microbiome. And in fact, it can change quickly, even within 24 hours, depending on what we eat or drink. The Kellogg company mission and passion to deliver breakthrough nutrition solutions goes all the way back to the work of John Harvey Kellogg and his work at the Battle Creek Sanitarium, where his progressive beliefs and techniques help to drive forward the belief that well-being begins in the gut, and that it starts with a low-fat, high-fiber, plant-based diet. So over 100 years later, our scientific research is emerging and continues to establish how the gut microbes play an essential role in delivering the positive benefits that are associated with fiber-based foods. But despite our understanding, despite our growth in understanding, our modern lifestyle, our search for convenience and quick solutions has reduced the amount and the diversity of the plant-based fibers that we consume in our diets, putting our microbiome and our overall health and well-being at risk. Microbiome diversity is just one way we can measure the health of the microbiome community. So much like the earth, when we have diversity in our environment and in our communities, it helps us tolerate change and also helps build our resilience over time to different factors. A diverse, plant-based, fiber-rich diet is important for promoting microbiome diversity. Lower microbiome diversity has now been linked to many disease states, and higher microbiome diversity is thought to be better for our health. And I think it's important to emphasize that microbiome diversity and its importance to our health is just the tip of the iceberg. There are many different approaches to understanding what a healthy microbiome means, like the roles of specific organisms, pathogens, the role of probiotics, or the metabolites that our microbes produce. It's a truly evolving space, and there are new measures very likely on the horizon. The association between dietary fiber and our basic digestive function has been known for many centuries. The gut microbiota and its role in our nutrition allows us to shift our thinking and really embrace a new hypothesis or paradigm shift, if you will, for the role of dietary fiber in our nutrition. So scientists like Justin Sonnenberg from Stanford have proposed that as our diet has become more westernized, our microbiome diversity has declined as our consumption of what we like to call microbially accessible carbohydrates or microbial accessible fibers, as that has decreased. So conversely, diverse plant-based diets provide a source of those microbial accessible fibers, which not only increase the type of bacteria that are able to utilize the complex fiber structures, but also other bacterial species as a result of cross-feeding relationships. And there are also additional insights that support the importance of plant diversity in the diet. The work of the American Gut Project, which is a large consumer science project that's sponsored by the University of California, at San Diego, and they've shown that consuming more than 30 types of plants per week is linked to higher microbiome diversity. The gut-brain axis is our understanding of how gut microbes potentially have an important role in our brain chemistry and in our behavior. The European My New Gut Consortium has also further supported the benefits of plant-based eating through a consensus statement that they've released that encourages a plant-based Mediterranean diet for people with or who are vulnerable to depression. Sorry, going the wrong way. There we go. For consumers, the microbiome is truly at a tipping point, and as it becomes known as a pathway to address the top areas of global concern with things like immune support, sleep, and stress, it will quickly move from interest to a demand for easy solutions that consumers can integrate into their lives to live better and healthier lives. We know consumer understanding is low of the microbiome. Scientific developments are continuing to emerge, and yet the social and media conversation space have far outpaced both of these. And regardless of the source, we know consumers continue to adopt and experiment with foods and techniques before evidence is very solid. The do-it-yourself at-home fecal transplant, need I say more? Predominantly positive press, along with heightened awareness of our health in the COVID world, has caused a paradigm shift in the role of our gut and a move to a more proactive mindset. There is increased interest in gut microbiome wellness as a means to improve both our physical and our mental health, including what role it plays in our immune system support. This creates exciting opportunities for trusted brands, but we have to remain grounded in science. According to consumer research, the public is aware of the benefits of fiber, and most people actually believe that they consume enough fiber. The unfortunate truth, however, is that the intake awareness is actually low, and consumer behaviors in consumption have not changed. It's a global phenomenon that people are not consuming enough fiber. We know from our work with consumers and in other assessments and discussions that we've had that people don't choose enough high fiber foods. And when we looked at fiber intakes across the globe and we looked at developed markets, we found that 9 out of 10 people are not getting enough fiber. Inadequate intakes continue to be called out as a public health concern. And even as recently as last week here in the US, the recognition that fiber consumption is low and the need to consume more was reinforced. The Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee once again reported that few Americans achieve or exceed the adequate intake for dietary fiber. The fiber consumption gap, consumer awareness of their own intake, coupled with the confusing fact that not all whole grain foods are good sources of fiber or that high fiber foods taste bad, demonstrate the significant opportunity to influence and to increase plant fiber consumption globally. Our understanding of fiber continues to grow. Existing and new scientific studies substantiate that different plant fibers impact our microbiota, and they do so differently. The fiber source, their structure, the co-passengers or phytonutrients that they bring along with them, and the metabolites that ensue from the microbes, they all produce in a seemingly complex effect and interaction within the microbiome. The complexity only reinforces the goal that we have as the Kellogg company to find new ways to deliver new and existing fibers in our foods. The unique nourishment needs of our individual gut microbiomes also illustrates the challenge and the opportunity that we have in delivering what we would call truly personalized nutrition. Kellogg and other companies continue to actively invest in the science of the microbiome and building the scientific body of evidence. This will help us to identify the impact of food on the gut microbiome, the impact on our wellness, and also apply that to how we innovate and bring new foods to our consumers. So just in closing, it's an exciting opportunity that we have ahead of us as a consumer-facing business, as governing bodies, and as educators in the positive impact that we can have on fiber awareness, the performance of the gut microbiome, and on the well-being of our consumers. I encourage you to do everything you can do to stay healthy in this time. And if I encourage you to do one thing, it would be to find what you feel is a great tasting source of fiber and challenge yourself to eat one more serving of fiber per day, either through fruits, vegetables, or even through grains, and definitely shameless plug for breakfast cereals. So just one more serving, maybe over the next 2 weeks. 2 weeks makes a habit, right? And great things come from small beginnings. So thanks for the opportunity to share with you all today. And Oliver, I will turn it back over to you.
That was great. Thank you very much, Diane. And I'm guessing from that you don't think that the do-it-yourself fecal transplants are going to catch on.
They might with some folks, but not something I'm going to try myself.
Yeah, me neither. So yeah, a couple of questions coming in from the audience. So firstly, I've heard that the gut microbiome is key for immunity. How do prebiotic fibers fit in promoting immunity? And that's from Lula from the registration.
Yeah, I think we actually had an interesting debate before we even started the call, just about the actual evidence that exists between food and its connection to immunity. And I think the role that food does play is it strengthens the microbiome and strengthens the diversity of the microbiome in the gut, right? I don't think we have established yet that exact relationship between the food that we eat and an increased enhancement of our immunity, if you will. More work needs to be done. There are a lot of great theories out there connecting and doing work on probiotics and prebiotics, but again, prebiotic fibers being necessary to feed certain microbes within the gut. And I think I mentioned there's some really interesting work going on, and we've seen the studies continue to come forth on how certain fibers feed certain microorganisms. And I think there bears understanding, how do those microorganisms impact our immunity? Knowing that the preponderance of our immune system actually resides in the gut.
Great, thank you. And one of the greatest barriers to widespread adoption of healthy eating habits is the high cost of healthy foods. So what are you and Kellogg's doing to encourage the development of healthy foods that are more affordable and accessible, regardless of the consumer's income bracket? And that's from Chase Brennick from Covington.
Yeah, it's a great question, and something that we continue to explore. And one of my leading statements I usually make is the low cost of a serving of breakfast cereal. So granted, that would be to the markets that we serve, but low cost of a serving of breakfast cereal versus other options, and also a lot of work that we are doing as a company to ensure that we can get our foods into the channels and the markets. For us, the price point offering is extremely critical. So understanding how we work with our external partners to create and build and innovate foods, and then how to get them into a serving size and a low enough price point that serves that demographic within that community. So we continue to do work on that. We have some great work that we've done in emerging markets, but the work continues.
Brilliant, thank you. And finally, just to close up, what do you see as the future of snacking post-COVID? Do you think it's gonna change or be impacted?
Interesting. I've seen some work just about snacking in general and how the behavior habits have shifted because communities are working from home, right? So the shift has maybe not necessarily been in the foods themselves, although people are seeking healthier and more nutritious options. We've also seen that the offering, the packaging offering that they bring home, more of a large family serve type size. So we've seen not necessarily a shift in snacking behavior, but how consumers are interacting with the different sizes of packages and different servings that we offer in home.
Great, perfect. Thank you very much, Diane. And
my pleasure. Thank you.
You more from you after this. So now on to our next presenter, Janice Ruda. She is the VP of Nutrition Science Business Development at ADM, and she develops new scientific and business collaborations through strategic engagement in the global nutrition space. Welcome, Janice.
Hi, good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. It's really exciting to see all of the locations around the world that are represented. I've been watching the feed on the right-hand side of the screen. So thank you, everybody, for joining in today. It's really great to be here with you all. You know, now more than ever, consumers understand the potential of food to have a positive impact on health. And despite the current challenges, it's a really exciting time to be in the food and nutrition industry. And so today I'll be sharing a look inside our discovery process that provides a foundation from which we can accelerate the future of nutrition. And so we know that nutrition plays a critical role in health. And consumers today are becoming more and more aware of the benefits of specific nutrients like fiber, for example, and the food that contains them, like breakfast cereal. So the associations between diet and health, things like immune function, metabolic health, heart health, and the rest, these are all really well documented. And as scientists, we can measure the effects of food and diet on specific outcome variables associated with disease risk. But that's not the entire story. So the concept of wellness is becoming more and more prevalent in the minds of consumers. And we're seeing entrance in benefits that go beyond traditional measures of health and into more like intangible areas like mood and relaxation and comfort and even environmental concerns. And all of these things contribute to an overall sense of well-being, and they do so in a very individual way. So in addition to formulating products to meet certain nutrient needs, we're seeing increased interest in using what we call signal ingredients like botanical extracts and flavors in these products to contribute to the overall eating experience and also promote these feelings of well-being. And the what's next in the evolution of nutrition is really the idea of individual needs and personal nutrition solutions. And so we know that there's a whole lot of variability in individuals' responses to food and nutrients. And we increasingly understand the role of the microbiome in some of these responses to food, as well as our overall health status. That's why the concept of precision nutrition is so exciting. And at ADM, we're working really hard to bring that future to life. So as we start thinking about developing products to meet specific nutrition aims, like for example, to support a healthy microbiome, it's helpful to consider the role each ingredient plays in a formulation. So one way to consider it is 3 distinct categories of ingredients. So the first one over to the far left of your screen is what we call whole food solutions. And so this is going to provide the bulk of the calories in a product, the nutritional attributes, and these include things like ancient grains, nuts and seeds, and of course bean and pulse ingredients, which are really high sources of dietary fiber, especially as ingredients in food products. But sometimes those don't really get the nutrition up to where a formulator might want it to be. And so that's when the role of what we call multi-benefit solutions come into play. So these are things that include specialty fibers like fibersol or resistant starches from tapioca, or maybe sugar reduction is an aim, calorie reduction. And so that's where we have solutions like our Fruit Up product, for example, or even specialty oils that impart other benefits into the product. And then lastly, the last column, what we call health and wellness solutions. And so these really tie it all together and really help tell the product's benefit story. So these enabling ingredients include signal flavors, botanical extracts, and also pro and postbiotics that create a complete benefit package that will resonate with consumers. So when it comes to developing products specifically aimed at promoting a healthy microbiome, for example, it's easy to see how these ingredients can come together to customize products. And my apologies, there's a storm coming. So you might hear some background thunder. So let's take a closer look at the microbiome because, and as Diane said, we all agree that this is really the exciting new benefit space in nutrition and food product development, and it's central to precision nutrition. And so the microbiome can really be considered our second genome. And, again, like Diane mentioned, it's really like a fingerprint. It's individualized. The patterns of species that are represented are individualized to each person. So the microbiome is seeded at birth, and it's developed through breastfeeding. And then throughout the lifespan, it can be affected by lots of different lifestyle factors. And, exercise, hygiene, prescription drugs, supplements, including probiotics, all of these things, even companion animals in the home, all of these things can affect the various populations of our microbiomes. But really, diet quality has a big impact on the overall health of the microbiome. And so it represents an ideal intervention target for realizing the health benefits that are associated with healthy microbiome populations. And so as we've seen, the field has really expanded. And in the top right figure, you can see the volume of published research has increased tremendously over the past 10 years. So developing probiotic strains and ingredient systems that can support the microbiome and promote health, it's the goal of precision nutrition. And accelerating that discovery pipeline holds the promise to have a real impact on both new product development and also public health. So at ADM, we've developed a systems approach to accelerating discovery to ultimately help our customers develop unique food products that consumers can trust to deliver benefits that they're looking for. So we employ several preclinical models, as well as what are known as omics technologies like genomics, transcriptomics, metabolomics, where we can characterize the interactions of specific nutrients and ingredients on host microbiome populations. And so with that preclinical mechanistic understanding, we can then move into human clinical trials where we can demonstrate safety and effectiveness of these unique products. So let's take a look at a specific example. ADM's award-winning probiotic strain, BPL1, was developed using this strategy. So BPL1 is a probiotic strain shown to impact body fat and body mass index. The C. elegans model, so you can see an example of that over to the far left of your screen, it's central to our screening program, and it has several attributes that make it ideal for this purpose. So firstly, it has a short and reproducible lifespan. It's easy to cultivate, its genome has been fully sequenced, and as a research and development tool, it can be described as being animal-free. So you can see in the figure at the top right of your screen that the BPL1 strain, which is in blue over to the far left of that figure, had the highest fat reduction effect in this screening. And so we chose this candidate to test for efficacy in several preclinical models. So these preclinical trials were consistently successful, and the human clinical trials have also shown positive effects. BPL1 is now commercially available as a live probiotic in supplement form and as a live probiotic suitable for food and beverage applications. It's also available as a heat-treated postbiotic, which is suitable for use in harsher food processing conditions, bringing benefits to new categories of food products. And we're really seeing a lot of emerging interest in the concept of postbiotics. And these are defined as non-viable microorganisms and their metabolites, like enzymes and peptides, for example. And evidence shows that these can have positive effects similar to live probiotics. So we also use this systems-based approach for ingredient systems development aimed at affecting specific parameters of microbiome health. Plant-based diets have been shown to have positive effects on the microbiome, and research is showing the story is even more nuanced than just carbohydrates, fibers, proteins, and fats, for example. Some of the questions we ask include, what is the role of phytonutrients, which we know are really prevalent in plant-based diets? What's the role of these in promoting beneficial populations of microbes? How might we make beneficial phytonutrients more readily accessible to the microbiome to affect positive change? There's so many outstanding questions, and we're moving closer and closer to these answers every day. And it's these answers that will become the foundation of personalized nutrition platforms that meet consumers' individual needs and have the potential to really impact public health in general. And I think that's the really exciting potential of this field and of this work. So starting with an understanding of the molecular mechanisms of action and then testing for a biological response, we have the capabilities to develop the system solutions that will be part of the forefront of precision nutrition in the future. And so also really important to this story is delivery technology and sensory science, because these pieces of the toolbox combine to create a differentiated experience that can deliver both performance and great taste. And we all know that taste is a primary motivator when it comes to eating food products, right? So we've screened for several consumer identified benefit areas like immune function, fat reduction, focus and attention, and we're rapidly developing solution systems to meet these growing need spaces across a variety of market categories. And so the science of supporting precision nutrition is emerging faster than ever. And our approach at ADM to meeting these rapidly evolving needs is to develop and offer what we call tailored nutrition solutions enabled by science. And so for us, it all starts with the consumer. And our category expertise informs our research and development efforts to provide tunable benefit systems to create delightful and memorable experiences that resonate with today's consumers. But most importantly, as the science so rapidly evolves, the most important part of our development strategy is that it's based on a foundation of trust, what we call our 3 Rs: responsible and credible communication of benefits, reliable products and services, all combining to serve as a resource for nutrition solutions. We're really excited about the future of nutrition and the potential of new ingredient solutions to affect public health. So thank you so much for the opportunity to join in the discussion today.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Janice. That was really interesting, the stuff that you're doing. And so to follow up with a couple of audience questions, firstly, under the current world, kind of according to COVID, how is ADM dealing with R&D projects to qualify new ingredients? And this is from Craig.
So We're constantly scoping new ingredient opportunities around the world. So as a global company, we're really tuned into what consumers in each region of the world are looking for when it comes to new food solutions. And so, our teams have been busily at work identifying, sourcing pathways for these new things, as well as developing the ingredient supply chains to provide them to our end customers.
Great, thanks. And I know you wanted an opportunity to kind of debunk some of the conversations around immune system health. And so what are your views on following a vegan diet to build up your immune system and general fitness level?
So there's a huge potential in all kinds of diet patterns to support a healthy immune function. And of course, vegan diets are no exception to that. I tease, especially with my colleagues, the one myth I'd like to debunk is the concept of boosting your immune system. So really, it's a function of nutrient adequacy. That's the most important thing. And so with a vegan diet, typically it's not as easy to get some nutrients, for example, vitamin B12. And, because the immune system is so complex and it's not just one pathway or one set of reactions, it's really a complex interplay of so many different processes within your body. Therefore, each and every nutrient support is important to that process as a whole. And so again, with the vegan diets, I think there's a bit of an advantage there because they potentially are getting more of those phytochemicals from the plant-based, the fruits and vegetables in the diet. So that's a really exciting opportunity, and we're working toward bringing those benefits of nutrition to the packaged food aisle as well.
Great. And just kind of following up on that, because I know you said about vitamin deficiency, a question came in around how do we work together to kind of reduce sugars, carbs, and really increase kind of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants to really begin making a difference?
Yeah, and it's really, as I said, an exciting time to be in the food industry because there is so much potential to affect the foods that are available to consumers and then subsequently public health. And, the real question is, I think as the food industry, we make healthy food products, to be sure, they're out there, but how do we get consumers to choose them and to choose them frequently, enough to have an impact on overall diet quality? Brilliant.
That actually segues really nicely into our next presentation. So thank you so much, Janice. I really appreciate your time. And we'll bring you back up shortly. But now I'd like to introduce our final presenter, Michel Nishan, and he's the founder and CEO of Wholesome Wave. So he's a 4-time James Beard award-winning chef with over 35 years of leadership advocating for a more healthy, sustainable food system. He's the author of 3 cookbooks on healthy and sustainable food, and a very well-respected leader for the good food movement. And there's so much more that he's done, but I don't want to take up any more of the presentation time. So welcome, Michel, and very much looking forward to your presentation.
Thanks, Oliver. I'm just going to pre-apologize. This is my chicken yard behind me, so I have about a dozen of them, and if they lay an egg, they make a lot of noise, but my 2-year-old grandson's inside, and he loves joining these meetings. So I am just going to go, and if you hear squawking, everybody's fine. So I've been a chef for over 40 years, but I founded Wholesome Wave back in 2007. In my culinary journey, I started as a farm-to-table chef. Both of my parents were farmers back in 1979. And it was during a time where customers really didn't want to know about, the health of an animal or the health of a vegetable or where it came from or the difference between organic and non-organic. They really didn't want to have a headache. They wanted to have their bellies full, and they loved if things tasted good. And what I found is when I bought directly from producers. I was able to get those heirloom, very ripe vegetables and fruits, heirloom animals as well, and was able to provide a product that really gave me a competitive edge. But there was a long period of time where the concept and the notion farm to table didn't exist. It wasn't a movement. And I think now we all know that's the case. But it was in that journey, during that journey, that my two of my sons were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. My oldest son, Chris, was diagnosed 28 years ago. And I really made the connection between food and human health. So I was halfway through my career as a chef and really did a 180 and created a restaurant in 1997 in the First W Hotel called Heartbeat, which was a restaurant of well-being based on organic, sustainable foods, but no processed food of any kind. We didn't use flour, sugar, butter, cream. The science of the time was that if you consume things like butter and cream, that fat made you fat. So now the science is actually more modern, and there are a variety of things that lead to obesity and some of the conditions that cause these diet-related diseases that are now driving the highest hospital and death rates of COVID-19. Around the time I founded Wholesome Wave, I was a busy guy, had a restaurant in India with Taj Hotels based on the Heartbeat concept, and a restaurant here in the United States with my dear friend and late business partner, Paul Newman, called Dressing Room Restaurant. And it was that restaurant that really kind of changed my life because it was a social venture for Paul. He wanted half of his proceeds from the partnership, his half of the proceeds to go to the Westport Country Playhouse, whose campus we were on. And I wanted my proceeds to go to help people struggling with serious poverty and food insecurity to be able to afford to choose and purchase and consume the foods they needed to consume to be healthier. I think we all know that one of the truths about people that are struggling with serious poverty and food insecurity is their ability to put healthy food on the table. It's one of the things that leads to the diet-related diseases that are more prevalent in these populations than anywhere else. So we founded Wholesome Wave, actually based on a concept that was illegal. My co-founder of the organization was Gus Schumacher, who was a former two-term Undersecretary of Agriculture for the USDA. And when we decided to look at big system opportunities where people's choices might be able to change if they were given some resources, we looked at the SNAP system. At the time, it was illegal to show any preference to somebody who was on SNAP, but we decided we were going to do it anyway, so we raised private money and doubled SNAP benefits, otherwise known as food stamps here in the United States, if people simply spent their benefits on fruits and vegetables. So that's how we formed the organization. It became wildly popular and has twice led to policy change in the U.S. Farm Bill. One of the things that I've learned along the way, because from the very beginning, really up until recently, we talked about ourselves as a food equity organization and an organization that addressed food insecurity. But what we really knew to be true, it was never really fully reconciling, and we were having a tough time really figuring out how to talk about it, was the nuance but very real difference between food insecurity and nutrition insecurity. Food insecurity, there are a lot of food insecurity organizations that our work is often confused with food banks and food pantries, soup kitchens, organizations that donate food or will recover food to be wasted and then getting it to people struggling with poverty. That's all very important work, especially during times like this where people find themselves with no income and no ability to put any food on their table. But when we look at the long-term diet-related comorbidities that are hospitalizing and frankly killing people at the higher rates with COVID, these are things that you need to have access to over time. At Wholesome Wave, we've served well over 1.5 million families. We've gotten to know a lot of these families, and we actually know some families who technically are not food insecure because they work and they have access to SNAP benefits. They are putting 3 meals on the table of the day, but it's often instant rice with condensed soup stirred in, or instant noodles with condensed milk stirred in. A head of broccoli is $2, which seems cheap unless you've run out of SNAP benefits mid-month and you have $2 to spend on dinner for all 4 people in the family. It is not broccoli that's going to be going on the table. And once COVID really struck and we started seeing that over 90% of people that were hospitalized and actually dying and being intubated and going on ventilators were people with these diet-related comorbidities, we really started to change the way we talk about ourselves. So we believe nutrition insecurity is real, and that when we're dealing with communities in poverty, it's not just about providing enough food, which is important. It's about providing the right food so these families can make the choices that can help them avoid these diet-related diseases. Just in the month of March, the CDC did a study in over 17 states that identified that 89.3% of everybody that was being hospitalized and impacted with death by COVID had these diet-related comorbidities or asthma. So type 2 diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, obesity were all driving these high hospitalization rates. I'm going to just do a case study on one program that we have in LA County because it keeps rising to the top in the country. The state of California has reversed a lot of its business openings, even though they were doing a pretty good job in the beginning of managing the spread of the pandemic. They find themselves now in another upsurge, and in both of these upsurges of the disease, both at the beginning and now with the readvent, it is LA County where the highest tolls of death and hospitalization by COVID are a very real thing, especially amongst communities of color, indigenous communities, Black and brown people, and communities struggling with serious food insecurity. So we do have a program that we started piloting in 2010 called the Fruit and Vegetable Prescription Program. We are working on impacting U.S. health policy through this program. In both cases, like the SNAP doubling, the produce prescription program, we have to raise private money so that we can partner with clinical partners at federally qualified community health centers or public hospitals so that a nurse practitioner or a doctor can prescribe the fruits and vegetables and at-risk family needs to be able to consume more to reduce your risk of these diseases. You know, when we talk about microbiome, gut health, and all of these things, pre and postbiotic, and increasing fiber, one of the very best ways to do that is fruits and vegetables. We chose fruits and vegetables because in all the research I did for my own children, I learned that it's really the one thing that where there irrefutable science that proves simply increasing your consumption, servings per day of fruits and vegetables, can actually reduce your risk of contracting these diet-related diseases or dying from them. That's why we focus on the fruits and vegetables. But to actually make that happen in raising the private money, we didn't take the private money and give it to the program recipient, because if they had their electricity shut off for 2 months, they could spend the money to put their electricity back on and continue consuming the diet thins, coupons, things that could be redeemed at a retailer or at a farmer's market, so that the retailer knew that this particular coupon or token could only be used for fruits and vegetables. We've been effective with this. We ended up with a card and chip technology not too long ago where we would load the benefit on a debit card. But the one thing that we learned about perishable products in the consumer packaged goods space and in the grocery retail space is that those are proprietary CPUs. And our vision was a platform that could be used across all retailers, whether it's a farmer's market, a bodega, a big box grocery store. But these grocers will not allow their proprietary CPUs to live on a shared technology platform with a competitor. So this forced us to iterate and find another technology, which we're currently now deploying in Los Angeles, our produce prescription program, and soon in Sacramento. Our produce prescription program, we partner with a technology called Tangelo, and I'd like all of you to think of it as Amazon Fresh for people struggling with poverty. It's a smartphone device technology that allows us to load donor funds onto the app in a restricted wallet, and it allows people to purchase fruits and vegetables and have them delivered directly to their home. So this is groundbreaking for us. And we really see it as an intersection of nutrition and tech equity, not just nutrition equity, but there's a lot of tech insecurity as well. People struggling with low poverty don't even think about using Amazon Fresh. Even with the current EBT online models, the price of ordering food online and having it delivered to your house makes it difficult for you to participate in that program. Because we're donor funded and the fruits and vegetables are effectively free, we're able to do that. So I'm going to share with you a quick video on the technology to let you know how it works, and then I'll get ready to.
Enables public and private funders to democratize access to affordable, healthy food and more. With the Tangelo app for iPhone and Android, Wholesome Wave, additional partners, and your organization have a direct channel to support community members with the resources they need. Whether that's connecting them to a local food bank with our appointment booking feature, providing them critical information from trusted sources with embedded video, or giving them access to easy-to-consume education around their health, cooking, and nutrition. At the heart of Tangelo is our patent-pending digital incentive wallet. This technology enables your organization to distribute incentive dollars to individual community members directly in-app. You can also distribute additional incentive dollars and choose in-app actions that unlock these dollars for community members to use. These actions can include using GPS check-in at a local class or event, taking an interactive quiz or survey that can collect valuable data, booking a telehealth appointment through a local hospital or community clinic, connecting a Bluetooth-enabled device or monitor, and much more. Once community members have unlocked incentive dollars, they can spend them directly through Tangelo's in-app market. Here, they can browse a selection of fruits, vegetables, and other healthy foods and household essentials that meet your community's needs. Items with the Wholesome Wave logo next to them mean they're covered by incentive dollars. Community members select and add items to their cart, and they can add their own credit or debit card to pay for products their incentive wallets don't cover. Then they simply click checkout to have their healthy fruits, vegetables, and other items delivered to their doorstep. Tangelo makes it that easy to support community members in need. Tangelo also features in-app chat support, an English and Spanish language translation enabled app-wide with the ability to expand to other languages if needed. Finally, all of this activity and data is made available to your organization through our customizable program dashboards. With Wholesome Wave programs on Tangelo, empowering your communities has never been this easy.
So anyway, that's us. We're tackling nutrition insecurity head on, and we're using technology to be able to do that in the most equitable way that we can, and actually now addressing multiple social determinants of health, including lack of access to transportation, geographic access to healthy food, et cetera. So I'm going to stop sharing so that we can turn over for a brief Q&A session.
Thank you so much, Michelle. That was really interesting, and you're doing some great work. It's also astonishing that as one of the richest countries in the world, and there are still people serving up condensed soup and rice for dinner, and not by choice. That's
Yep.
remarkable. So a couple of questions that have come in. I think firstly, from actually one of the guys here at the team, Pierrick, he asked how, I guess, and I guess maybe it's answered by that video, but how can corporations, investors, and food tech startups be an ally to your cause? You know, what are the easy wins that are going to make the biggest difference to this?
You know, it's interesting because I think the one of the things that's really important about produce, fruits, vegetables, specialty crops they're referred to here in the U.S. is that they're additive. Vegan diets, clean protein diets, or organic, whatever you want to speak to. What we're seeing in our communities is plenty of availability to cheap animal protein. Many of the things that are processed or boxed, whether they're things like mac and cheese meals, whatever they might be, the things that make it easy to put food on the table are relatively inexpensive. Like I said, when the family of 4 that runs out of SNAP mid-month only has $2 for dinner, they can put the instant rice with the condensed soup on the table and feed 4 to 6 people for $2. A head of broccoli is $2, and you're not going to quarter a head of broccoli for your family and call it dinner. So really being able to partner with these companies, because I'm excited personally as a chef and as a father of 2 children living with diabetes. I'm excited by the reformulation that I'm seeing in many of these large-scale companies whose products are literally feeding the world. Billions of consumers eating under single brand umbrellas at times. So I think there's a real opportunity to stop. And unfortunately, many in the movement, whether it's a vegan movement, the good food movement, the local food movement, name it, the health, the supplement movement, it tend to categorize these foods and don't speak of them as how they can work in tandem to constitute the type of lifestyle choices people now can make, and also provide the information so that people actually understand how to make a good decision. I think it's additive, and I think partnering is an interesting opportunity when it comes to actually being able to reach a global population, because obesity, poverty, its effect on obesity, racism, don't just impact Americans; it impacts everybody globally.
Yeah. And our most upvoted question, is it just a lacking in the US, or are no other countries talking about diet and health as a kind of a preventative measure against COVID and other diseases? It's been talked about a lot, about masks and social distancing, while kind of ignoring the more relevant long-term health factors. And that's by Shaheen Robertson.
Yeah, thank you, Shaheen. I think what's interesting about that statement, it's actually a foundational belief at Wholesome Wave, is I like to compare the United States right now to Japan. Japan has one of the healthiest populations in the globe. They invest more in their full food system than others. They're very well educated of the impacts of food and nutrients on human health. It's taught in school. Families are very food literate, and Japan didn't have to shut down their economy because of this global pandemic, because it really seriously is mostly impacting people that are overweight, obese, and have one of those 4 diet-related comorbidities. So, we find ourselves in a position of closing our businesses and having to walk around wearing masks, because we haven't, as a national culture, paid attention to the impact and the intimate relation between food and human health. And I see most of the forward thinking coming from the private sector. Companies, again, reformulating, really starting to understand and use the science in ways that can improve products so that you can deliver nutrition. It's the one thing that we should take note about the vegan movement is all of the investment that's gone into alternative proteins there, almost all of it with an eye towards, how it's going to impact the health of the eater. So I think there's a lot of hope, but I do think politically we need to address it more like the Office of Economic Cooperation, the OECD Development Cooperation, because they've long been proponents in that group of trying to de-silo both health and agricultural policy. We have a health system that isn't in sync with and is dealing with the things that we eat. We have a food system that's feeding things that are making us sick. It's a little twisted. So thanks for the great question.
Yeah, great, perfect. Well, I'd like to welcome back up Janice and Diane for just a final sort of 10-minute or so group discussion. And I thought what also would be quite interesting is just have a look at the poll as well, because there's been 3 polls that's been going on. one around kind of which wellness trend is here to stay, and that seems to be gut health seems to be the most popular there. But then also, who is to blame for our bad diets? The most upvoted is, of course, myself, because you can't put down that chocolate bar. But the second is corporations. So I think maybe I'll just leave those there for you to kind of discuss further, and come back in 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, I think let's start with the who's responsible piece. I think it's the opportunity for richest conversation. So,
Sure.
Janice, Deanne, would you guys like to take first crack at that?
Yeah, I'm happy to. And I think it's probably a balanced answer, right? I think it's yes, it is easy to blame corporations. Corporations sell balanced portfolios of food, right, to suit every need state, to address that, to meet needs, desires, nutritional needs, just well-being, emotional needs, right, to satisfy emotional needs. However, there's a role that we can and we do play, right, in local and regional infrastructures, particularly from a Kellogg company perspective in the communities that we operate in. Also in the foods that, at least in the U.S., that we ensure there's access to through programs like WIC, right? And there's standards of nutrition that we need to meet for the foods that enter into those programs. So, but with all that said, there's more we can do, right? I can continue to innovate and make unique nutritional benefits available to consumers, but there's a segment of the population that is going to consume that food and desire that benefit. There's a segment of that population that, quite frankly, just needs, I think, like you had talked about, Michelle, they just need access to high quality, nutritious foods. And then I think also with the understanding of how to prepare and consume those foods.
Janice?
Yeah, and just adding on to that, working for a big corporation, I can feel it's easy to malign, but what we offer consumers the opportunity for choice, and we offer consumers the opportunity for accessibility of nutritious food at scale and at an economic price point that makes it an opportunity for all consumers, at every demographic level. And I think that's something that's easy to forget when you're talking about the impact on public health. And, one of the things that I see as a real opportunity for creating more accessible and healthier food, price is such an important determinant there. And so what are, looking at some policy levers that we might collaborate on to affect the accessibility of some of these foods? One of the things that we think about now with COVID is, schools opening up and the opportunity of feeding schools as part of the National Breakfast and National School Lunch programs. And, so I think there are some real opportunities here, not only to provide healthy foods, but to make them more accessible to the general population.
Yeah, thanks for that. And that cues me up beautifully. I always, I look at that poll and I'm like, boy, it depends, because there's so many different classes of consumers.
Yeah.
And, we chose to deal with American consumers struggling with poverty. We refuse to call them recipients. We refuse to call them beneficiaries, because when they receive a benefit like SNAP or WIC, they spend it on food, and it's got dollar for dollar value. They're paying the full price on milk. They're paying the full price on everything that they're buying.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, it's still not enough. The program has not changed to reflect the cost of living for decades. So you really have consumers who've been deprived of their right to choose. If you, going back to the broccoli and the $2 for 4 people for dinner,
Right.
If you can't afford it, you cannot exercise a free American right. So it's actually a constitutional thing for me. And I kind of blame the government. I don't blame big companies. A lot of people will blame the billboards and the marketing of companies in underserved communities really marketing low quality food. Honestly, they're competing with other companies of their size to just win the sale, because it happens to be the only thing that people living in these communities can afford to put on the table.
Right.
So you're just being competitive with your marketing. You're not exploiting a population. I often provoke a lot of derision and with my friends in the good food movement by saying that, but the bottom line is it starts with minimum wage disparity, payment disparity, and racial inequality in the job market. All of those things drive lack of education, lack of access to good quality public education. We have so disinvested there that folks are just learning up, not understanding the impact of something as simple yet as complex as food and what that can have on your diet. So I kind of blame the government for putting an environment in place that doesn't deal with making sure that everybody in our country is free to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? So we were successful twice in the 2014 Farm Bill using wooden nickels and coupons. We got a program in there called the Food Insecurity Nutrition Incentive Program, a $100 million pilot to double SNAP benefits when spent on fruits and vegetables. In 2018, we succeeded in getting that to $250 million, which makes it permanent and baseline. And they named it after my late co-founder, Gus Schumacher. It's the Gus Schumacher Nutrition Incentive Program. But it's $250 million in a marketplace that spends 60 and probably this year close to $90 billion on food. So we need to see the type of public investment in programs, either whether it's the right kind of intensive job training, reinvesting in our public schools, and really erasing the lens of color when we make hiring decisions and how much we pay entry-level employees and how quickly we promote them. If we don't deal with that stuff in the populations that Wholesome Wave serves, at least, I believe that government is the problem, or the lack of effective governance. It's not corporations, and it's not personal choice when you actually don't have the affordability and the luxury to make your own choice. Do we have time for another, by chance?
Yep, we've got time for one more.
Okay, so what was that first one, Oliver, if you can remind us? Sorry about that. We really got off on a riff there. My apologies.
No, not at all. So the first one was which wellness trend is here to stay? So we had gut health coming in at first, but then also kind of sleep and relaxation, brain, food, and cognitive health, and then also healthy aging. Those were the runners up.
Thank you. Deanne, would you like to go first?
Sure. I think I actually voted for gut health. I voted that up. And the reason I did, I just look at the rest of those examples. There's a lot of speculation and there's a lot of evidence that would say a lot of those are outcomes of a healthy gut microbiome. But also, like I said, there's a lot more work to be done. There is a lot more work to be done on building the body of evidence around food and its impact to the gut microbiome, and then the subsequent benefits of that that come from having a healthy and diverse microbiome. So I think that's just the gateway, right, that opens our understanding and its connection to so many things about our health and well-being.
Excellent. And Janice?
And just to build on that, I mean, I agree. I voted for the microbiome too.
We were not IMing in the background, right?
It's the new frontier, right, in nutrition and scientific discovery. And so the potential of it is really exciting. And, you know, this is affirmed with almost every nutrition research study that is published, you know, just affirming the importance of a healthy microbiome to all of these other health parameters. And, you know, I think what's really exciting in, you know, this current COVID environment is that it's really been an impetus for consumers to want to learn more about nutrition and health and the effects of their food choices on this broader context of health. And, you know, so I think it's a real opportunity to partner with, you know, our government partners, but also, you know, the food industry as a whole to help educate consumers in what's available and how it can be an impact into their daily lives.
Wait, there we go. It's awesome. We're unanimous. I voted for gut health and microbiome as well. You know, and it's interesting. We have quite a few vegans that have been participating. So I want to honor the role that they play in really helping to drive a significant balancing of the environmental impacts of food on a variety of different systems. And, you know, I'm actually a proponent. I tried being vegan for some time when I did Heartbeat in Manhattan and Pure in India. 60% of both menus were vegetarian, and about 60% of the vegetarian was vegan. I understand it. I do better as a flexitarian. You know, I need some animal protein. I eat mostly plant-based. And I think if we wave the magic wand and that's how the world actually operated, I think a lot of these large animal factories would close because we need to go from valuing a steak the size of our torso and the baked potato the size of our head to having many good, delicious things on the plate. Beans and pulses, whole grains, fruits, vegetables. All of these things are critical to providing the variety of nutrients we actually need to be able to thrive and be productive. So unanimous. There we have it.
The results are in. Brilliant. That's it's good to see that it's widely considered. And so that's enough, all we have time for really, but thank you so much for your participation, both Janice, Michelle and Diane. That was really, really interesting, and I'm sure I've seen by the messages that are coming through that everyone saw a huge amount of value in that, and not only the presentations, but I think, you know, bringing leaders like yourself together just to have a conversation, I think is the best thing. So as always, thank you so much, and thank you as well to the audience signing on to this webinar. Your interest in this important subject, all of those great questions. This will be the last one for a couple of months, as we're now focusing on our virtual summit, which is taking place on the 17th and 18th of September. We have an amazing roster of speakers as well, from iconic food tech leaders from Perfect Day and Memphis Meats, through to kind of corporate heavyweights as well, such as the CEO of Tate & Lyle and President of Food at Mars. So I implore everyone to go and check that out on futurefoodtech.com, and there's a lot of conversations as well around nutrition and health and that as well. But until then, looking forward to seeing you all again soon, hopefully in person. And once again, thank you so much, Janice, Michelle and Diane, for your time.
Our pleasure.
You.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.